You know what the number one key I think is to success? It is the right mindset. Think about two different people. One person says, I can do it. The other person says, I can't do it. And do you know what those two have in common? Is they're both right. So how do you have the right mindset that you can do anything? So in this video, I'm gonna jump into the top 5 things you need to look at to create a strong mindset to become the best version of you and to be the most successful. I like starting with mindset because I feel like it is the most important thing above and beyond anything you do. You can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't have the right mindset, it's all for nothing. So let's dive in. So number 1 is understanding mindset. Mindset is basically how you look at things and how you react to them. As I said earlier, if someone says I can do it and someone says I can't do it, has the right mindset. And usually that's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset basically says I can't do it, I'm stuck where I am, I can't go any further. Unfortunately, a lot of people are stuck in a fixed mindset. They just can't get any further in life or in financials or really in most of the things that they do. They really just don't believe themselves. They don't have the confidence. There's a lot of things they're missing that keeps them from being in a growth mindset. A growth mindset is continuously looking at how they can improve. Tony Robbins has something called consistent and never-ending improvement. That means that you're improving every single day. If you're a fixed mindset, you're good with where you are. If you're in a growth mindset, that means you want to continue to grow, and you do that by educating yourself, by reading books, by surrounding yourself with the right people, by going to masterminds, by investing in courses, and trying to get to that next level. I'm 20 plus years in business right now. I've done a ton of real estate. I've opened up a bunch of businesses, but every day I'm continuously trying to find a way to grow myself. I do that with coaches. I do that with therapists. I do that with masterminds. I do that with meeting with high-level individuals. In fact, to have a growth mindset is to continue to grow day in and day out and not stay stagnant. Think about a nice river that's flowing. It's nice, it's crisp, the water's usually clear. And then think about a pond that just sits there. It gets muggy, it gets green, and it gets kind of gross. So I think you got the point there. So number 2, I want to discuss the power of a growth mindset. When you have a growth mindset, things don't get to you nearly as much. You're much more resilient. Your failures you can look at, learning experiences, and you can embrace challenges. There have been so many things in the past that have kicked me and put me down and kind of shoved me down to the ground. But at some point, I had to pick myself up and realize that it's just part of the process. In fact, I'm going to give you a couple of examples that's going to help drive home the point. There's a couple places in business that had a really tough time. So back in 2010, I ended up firing my whole staff within about a 30-day period. I'd just been divorced the year before, and I just felt completely alone. My marriage had failed. My business, I felt like was going here, and I was systemizing and automating it, and all of a sudden, I had to fire everybody. I had 2 people living in my houses that not only did I have to fire, but then now I had to evict. I had a couple that threatened to take me to court because when you give someone like so many things and you stop giving it to them, it's like they expect it. And then when they don't get it, they're gonna try and figure out how to get it from you. And if court's the way to do it, then they'll do it. So I went through a really tough time. I'd been working really hard for 9 or 10 years at that point to get to a certain place. And honestly, my mindset wasn't nearly as strong as it is now. And guess what happened? I was down and out for about, I would say 6 months. I went into a depression. I've never been in depression before. And then I went to a seminar. And again, had I not had that growth mindset in the back of my mind, I went to this seminar and a lot of it was about mindset. And it was a real estate based seminar, but they taught you how to be strong, how to be resilient. And it just pulled me out of it. And I realized that I was taking my failures and really just kept overplaying them in my mind. And I remember during this seminar, they had you do, I think they called it a Dream 100 list. They had you spend, it was like 30 minutes to an hour listing out every single thing that you want to do in your life, no matter how big it is. So it was like, meet Tony Robbins, move to San Diego, which I did 5 to 6 years after that. Live in an ocean view home, which I did 5 to 6 years after that in San Diego. It was own a sports team. It was all of these huge things that I wanted to do. And what's interesting about it is nothing had changed, but when I wrote all those things down, I envisioned a bigger future, and it really helped pull me out of where I was at the time. And even if you're in a good place, this is still a good exercise to do, because what you're gonna see is that a lot of those things that you write down are not that far away and are possible. In fact, anytime I do that exercise, I've done it like 3 times before, but anytime I do it, I'll look at that list 6 to 12 months later, and a lot of the things that I thought would take 3, 5, 10 years, I ended up doing in a short period of time. It isn't until you write them down that you can really get them in your subconscious and realize that anything is possible. In fact, one of the things I wrote down on there was to own an airplane. And I thought I'd be 50, 60, 70 years old before I owned an airplane. And at 42 years old, I bought my first $1 million airplane. So that, my friends, right there is the power of a growth mindset, is being able to get through tough challenges and be able to envision a future that is bigger and brighter no matter what situation you're in. And last thing I want to say in this section is the athletes and the performers that perform at the highest level envision how they're going to look on the court, on the field, or wherever it is they're performing. So take some time each day to think about where you want to be and what actions you need to take to get there. Because if you envision in your head, it can happen in real life. So number 3, cultivating a growth mindset. So in order to do this, you need to look at challenges as opportunities. When you have setbacks and you have people that criticize you, you can sulk into those and really make it a huge setback for you, or you can take those things and use it as fuel. So let me give you some setbacks that I had in my life that actually turned into opportunities. So in the second big thing that happened to me, actually wasn't too long ago. It was 5 years ago, and my team was growing. We were really big. We were starting other businesses, and a lot of things happened at one time. My wife was 5 months pregnant. We had a house that we were building that went $500,000 over budget. We were having huge contractor issues. It was going a year over time. And because of that, we ended up getting a notice that we needed to move because we overstayed our welcome. We had 3 super slow months in business. I was building a huge co-working space that went $500,000 over budget. And I just felt like my world was imploding. I had to lay off staff. I had to call investors. I had to do a lot of things that were really tough at that time. And I went through another 6-month period that was absolutely tough. I had to make a lot of tough decisions. I had to let go of staff and family members, a lot of things that were just really tough at that time. Again, through sheer will and determination, I pulled myself out, and now my business is 4 to 5 times bigger than it was before. All right, so I'm going to give you some examples of some things that were setbacks to me that ended up being huge opportunities. So first of all, I waited tables back when I was 20 years old, and I ended up serving alcohol to one of my friends, and I ended up getting fired. And I ended up getting a much better job at another restaurant. At the next restaurant, I ended up giving food away to my friends, and I ended up getting fired from that job too. And what happens? I find another job that was much better. So as you can tell, I'm unemployable, which leads me to where I am today. But nonetheless, anytime you get fired from a job, anytime that someone breaks up with you, in fact, most of the times when I broke up with someone, I ended up getting in a much better relationship. So whether it's getting fired from a job, someone leaving you, God forbid, someone dies, there's always going to be opportunities from that. There's always things on the other side that, like they say, when one door closes, another one opens. There's a silver lining in every cloud. So again, a growth mindset will take those opportunities and say, what can I learn from this? These setbacks, what are the things that I can learn to help me in the future? Recently, I lost over $500,000 on a venture. And you know what I chalked it up to? A learning experience. So now I can take that business where I had massive failures and take it into another business that will create millions of dollars in the long run. And last thing I'll say on cultivating a growth mindset, in order to have a growth mindset, you need to hang around with people that have growth mindsets. So number 4 is overcoming obstacles. There's always going to be obstacles throughout life, throughout your career, throughout anything that you do. You're also going to have fear of failure. You're going to have imposter syndrome. You're going to have negative self-talk. These are things that I still have today, even though I've been working on these things for 2 decades, and technically 4 decades if you really think about your whole life, you're working on these types of things. Even though I feel like I've created some massive successes, I still feel failure. I still feel like an imposter sometimes, like I'm, recording these videos and doing these things and that I don't have the right to do them. But I feel like even though I've accomplished more than 99 to 99.9% of people from a business perspective. But the difference is now compared to where I was 10, 15, 20 years ago is that I don't stay there. I may have those thoughts. I may think those things from time to time, but I only stay there for a short amount of time. It may be a few seconds, it may be a few minutes, but it's definitely not days anymore. It's definitely not weeks anymore. It's definitely not months anymore. So obstacles don't necessarily mean just things that happen to you. It could be things that are inside of you. And that's really where the work is done. They say that success is an inside job. So how can you overcome those things? So for me, meditation is the best thing. Just sitting with yourself. You don't have to necessarily shut off your mind. There's a lot of people that think with mindfulness and meditation that you have to shut off your mind. In fact, there's a guy, Tom Bilyeu, he's got a huge podcast and he talks about thinkitation. He says it's hard for me to calm my mind. So what I do is I close my eyes and go inside. And that's the most important, is just going inside and just thinking about things, thinking about the day, thinking about the future, thinking about things that are possible. So you don't necessarily have to clear your mind, although if you can get the thoughts out of your mind and once they come in, because you're not going to be able to clear your mind 100%, but once they come in, figure out how to get those thoughts to go away, because more thoughts are going to come in. You're just going to have to continue to do that. But again, if you can't do that, then thinkitation is probably the next best thing. And while you're doing that, do some affirmations. Just think about like positivity, like tell yourself you can do it. Tell yourself that you can become a millionaire, a multimillionaire, or you are going to be the best husband, the best father, the best wife, the best whatever. Those are things that feed your subconscious. And something that I have been doing a lot lately that I haven't done much of in the past is taking more time to think. In fact, unfortunately, I kind of had a stint of illness this past like 8 or 9 months. I'm finally just getting over it. It was mold exposure, long COVID, a bunch of other things. And I may do some videos on those because I think people have more of those than people really know. But I was forced to take a lot of days off. I was forced to take half days. But even as I started getting better, I realized that I was working half days, but I was getting done almost as much as I was full days. And I was able to take those half days to think, to clear my mind, to relax. And what that did was it helped me sleep better. It helped me to make better decisions, helped me to be a better husband, to be a better father, and just overall be a better person. So don't be afraid to take days off, to take half days off, to take, even if it's just an hour or two a day or every once in a while, taking that time to sit back and reflect and just give yourself time. I think people think that, and I used to be this way too, that when things are hard, you just have to work harder. But really when things are hard, sometimes you just have to step back and realize, wait, I'm doing things differently than I should, that I need to make better decisions, that I may be going this way when, wait a second, if I stop for a second, I maybe realize that I need to go this way, that maybe I have the wrong people in my life, that I need to hire somebody, that I need to make some high-level decisions that I wouldn't be able to make if I was working really hard. And last thing to drive home this section is seek support. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to, whether it's a therapist or a coach or going to a mastermind or, just talking to a professional. In the past, many years ago, people would not want to talk about, but I think it's more open now that therapy is one of the best things you can do. Sometimes you just need to get things off your chest. For me, I have a therapist, I have a coach, I have masterminds I go to, and I have people that I can call if I need a shoulder to lean on, if I need to talk to someone about an issue. That's actually one of the reasons in 2010 that I went through such a massive depression, is because I didn't have anybody to talk to. So get together as many tools as you possibly can, because if you're starting a real estate journey, if you're starting a business, whatever it is that you're doing at this time, you're going to get through it better with having more tools in your toolbox. So don't be afraid to seek out other people for those tools. And number 5, I'm just going to talk about real life. If you read biographies of the most successful people out there, Starbucks, Amazon, Tesla, the story of Zappos, all of these companies, if you read into them, almost all of them failed. Starbucks back in the 90s almost ran out of money and went out of business. Tesla, Elon Musk is, I think, the richest man in the world, if not the top 3 at this point. And just a few years ago, he almost went out of business. So one of the things that really got me down back when I first started my business is I didn't think that anybody had the issues that I had. But the truth is, almost everybody has had some kind of issue that you've had before. And whatever you're going through, there are probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people going through the exact same thing. I remember back in 2007, I had a mentor run a multi-million-dollar business. At the point, he was making $3 million in net profit per year. And I remember sitting down with him, and I didn't really want to tell him this, but I needed to borrow money. My business was struggling a little bit and just needed some cash to float until I had some properties closed. So I went to him and I told him, hey, can I borrow $25,000? I'll pay you, 10% interest. I'll pay you in the next 90 days. And he looked me in the eye, and I thought it was going to be like, you loser, or why are you coming to me for this? Or, I just, so many things going through my mind at that point. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? I have cash flow issues every single day. And my mind would just went, poof. I was like, what? You're making $3 million a year? You have cash flow issues? So now when I have something happen to me, I realize I'm not the only one, right? Whether it's someone close to me died, or I lost over $500,000 on one business. I mean, not many people have probably had that happen, but there are a lot of business owners that have lost probably millions of dollars in their business, or had millions of dollars taken from them, where they built this huge thing and they had everything taken from them, either a lawsuit or someone stealing from them or whatever it is. For me, $500,000, it's a lot of money, but I was able to overcome it. Like, that's only a small portion of my net worth. So luckily I was able to overcome it, but man, if I didn't have that strong growth mindset, I would have looked at that and been like devastated and maybe depressed for a long period of time. But now I realize that people go through this stuff. So just realize, as you go through this real estate journey, this entrepreneurial journey, this new thing that you're doing, that things are going to happen. And while you don't really want them to happen, you just have to take them in and say, you know what, this is part of the journey. So I hope this helped you in this next step of real estate and business and all the things that you're getting ready to get into. Life is a challenge, business can be a challenge, but if you have that growth mindset, then you can get through anything. So if you're still watching here, you obviously got value. I spend my own time, money, and energy to make these videos, and I don't make anything on it. I actually lose quite a bit of money. So as part of the gentleman's agreement, if you just do me a favor, just hit that like and subscribe button. And if you thought this was really valuable, please share it with somebody. It's because I know that the things that I went through are things that people are going through, other people are going through, and that they can really learn from. And if you like this video, you're really gonna like this next one.